building the Labor Party, once again, knowing the difference from my journey alone, traveling to these different countries, dealing with different governments, and dealing with unions who've been unionized against Amazon. Amazon's been unionized in France for over a decade. So you know what I did? I traveled to France and sat down and had a face-to-face meeting with that union that's been unionized for over a decade. So I can learn how to bring that stuff back to America. And that's what we have to do.
Well, I think it's a legal thing in France. It's interesting you said I was in Marseille last year with a bunch of labor leaders around. Anyway, we were there talking about this new global standard for inclusion and how we put folks to work. And it was like a day or two before the Pope was getting there to basically beg them to they had a bunch of immigrants in a boat, similar to the border issues we have here, but they were all Black, they were all African, and they didn't want to let them in. And we were there trying to go back and forth with labor leaders to convince politicians that they needed these people in the country. Number one, it was the humane thing to do, but number two, we were there to talk about the economics of inclusion. I'm curious to know if when you went to France, if you went anywhere else in Europe and talked to their labor leaders, because like I used to do a lot of work back and forth on data rights with orgs like Uni Global Union. And again, when I got to Europe, I didn't realize how big some of their union coalitions were. Again, if anybody out there is not familiar, Google Uni Global Union, and they're huge relative to the AFL-CIO and SEIU coalition that we have here. But again, their governments and their policies are a lot different. How they're organized and how they talk about people's economic inclusion is just radically different than the American model. So I mean, what did they say to you in France, or were they just like change the policies, or were they like light a fire? Like what?
Oh man, France is on a different level when it comes to their militancy